How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to be reviewing another brand new release from Godox. The cool thing about Godox is because they seem to be releasing one thing after another, which is excellent. They never stop releasing stuff, and Godox sent this to me and they asked me which version of this light I prefer. They make the bicolor, which is this one here, the Godox LED 1000 bicolor, the Mark II, or the Godox LED 1000D, which stands for daylight. I particularly prefer bicolor units because most situations when I'm doing my outdoor filming on location or corporate interviews, whatever that is, I find myself have to deal with the tungsten light a lot. So whenever I'm dealing with tungsten, all I have to do is dial this little knob here. I am at tungsten or back to the light when I find the need to be at daylight. Now this particular light here has a CRI of 96, a TLCI of 98, and also since it is a bicolor panel, you're gonna have to share the intensity between the two LEDs. So this particular light here at 5600 Kelvin, which is daylight, you're having 2600 lux at about 1 meter away. Now on the tungsten side, you have slightly less brightness at 2200 lux at 1 meter away. And in the mid-range here at 4200 Kelvin, you have about 4800 lux at 1 meter away. Now if you are interested in the daylight, you're gonna have a significant more power output because all the LEDs, they are the same daylight LEDs, which is the 1000D. It has 5400 lux at 1 meter away and the same CRI of 96 or the TLCI of 98. So the first impression that I had upon unboxing this light, I actually care about looks. I think it is a pretty light, and also the size of the light, because when I look at the picture and even if you look at the specifications, I thought this light was going to be about this size here, but it actually turns out to be bigger than I thought, which is a good problem to have because the more lights that you have, the more the coverage and also the more light output you're going to have. So these features here, they're pretty light. They both weigh in average of like 2.5 kilograms or almost like 5.5 pounds, something like that. So I think this is something that everybody would appreciate when taking this location, because I plan to take this light as one of my location lights, and I don't want to carry a metal light because of the weight, because I want to travel as light as possible. And these plastics here, they're all made of ABS plastic, which is a high durability plastic. So I think this is perfect for being a lightweight light. The fact that also you have a V-mount option over here, and also if you can afford a V-mount battery, you can also install an adapter here for 2 Sony NPF batteries here. When you open the box, you're going to find the light itself, a diffusion panel, also the Godox RCA5 Mark II remote control, which controls most Godox lights, and also some newer brands LED lights as well. So this remote is very versatile. They ship in this type of material here, which you can actually use the box itself to transport the light. It has a dedicated slot for the remote control. The power supply slides right here, and the light is under here on the box, and then you put this on top and you're good to go. But if you need the case, I actually found the case on eBay for less than $18. It's a little bit bigger than the light, but it will definitely do the job if you really need the case, because I'm actually buying the case because everything that I buy or receive, I like a case at least to store away. At the back panel here, you're also gonna like the fact that they put a threaded plug in here, because this is not going anywhere. It makes a secure connection, and also it's always a good idea to keep this wire tied to the stand pole, because if somebody trips on a power cord on a power supply, the yanking stops right here, so this wire is free from damage and it's not gonna break your jack. And if you want to connect this light via DMX, there you go. They also provide 2 ways to connect, this way here or the standard 5-pin XLR. Here's your DMX in and DMX out. And to continue setting up your DMX, here's your Dmx Run stop button. By pressing and hold, you're going to be able to access the channels. And tap this button here, the set button. It ranges from channel 1 all the way up to 512. To get out of here, same thing, press and hold. It goes back to the default display with your Cctv mode. This light can go from 0% to 1% increments all the way to 100%. And you can very quickly turn it down all the way down to 0% as well. And to change the color temperature, as you probably know, quickly press the set button here. Goes from 5600 degrees Kelvin all the way down to 3300 Kelvin. And of course in 100 Kelvin increments, up or down. And another easy thing to do here to change your channel or group, just press this button once. You start with the options here from A, B, C, D, E, and F as the groups. Press this button once again, you change your channel from 1 to 16. The barn doors are permanently attached to the unit here, and they are very easy to open. And to close it down, first you close the top and bottom ones for a more flush way to close it down, and then it looks like this here. And here's the front panel. There's a lot of LEDs here, and I believe it's over 1,000, about 1,024 LEDs. And this particular model here, of course, it shares half tungsten and half daylight. The 1000D is only daylight, so they will have the same amount of LEDs, but a lot more power because all these lights are going to be on instead of half of the panel. This light comes with a built-in diffuser. As you can see, there's a very large tab for you to grab and lift it. And as you can see, these LEDs, they feature the lens system instead of the regular flood type, which allows more light to be thrown at a distance. So you can actually pull down this diffuser here for a softer light. But if you want to do key light, I would recommend that you put a additional diffusion here, so you can have that beautiful soft light, just almost similar to a softbox. Other than that, you just use the diffuser the way it is, which has less shadow but allows you to throw more light. As soon as you put a diffuser here, of course you're cutting down the amount of light output, but providing a softer light. This is a powerful light, but at the same time it can be a very gentle light depending what you want to do or achieve with this light here, given the distance that the subject is from the light. So I've seen a lot of lights that they don't do dimming too well, so the 1% looks like 40% already. So this light, I'm going to be turning off every light here. So this light is going to be set to 1%, and this is the exposure that you have about exactly 1 foot away from the light and 6 inches away. So at this setting here, to give you an idea, I'm using a Canon C100 Mark II with a 24-105 lens, which is a rather dark lens. I'm shooting at aperture minimum of f4. I'm shooting at the native ISO of 850, and the shutter is at 1/90th of a second, and this is the exposure that you get at 1 foot away with the light at 1%. So at 100%, you have this much intensity right here, all the way down to the 1%. Or all the way off. Now switching to bicolor is pretty much, I think, the same type of exposure, but what I like about it, because when you start to introduce the other LEDs, switching back to daylight, the daylight LEDs, they start very gentle until they are equally lit, and then until it turns off. And then when you go back to the tungsten mode, the same exact thing, it's nice and gentle. You can also use this light panel for key light, but keep in mind that some extra diffusion is required when you're lighting faces, especially if you're looking for the ultra soft light. The same exact way when you're using a monolight, you have to put a softbox in front of it with at least 2 layers of diffusion, and the bigger the light source, the softer the light is. It's no exception with this here, so you have to put something in front of this light here. You can put a Roscoe Frost gel. If you don't have the gel, you can go to a Walmart store and order at the fabric department. They have it there usually. It's called tracing paper, which is only like $4 or $6 a yard, and it does not alter the color temperature. As a matter of fact, I'm using one right here with this light here, and I have the tracing paper right in front of the LED panel to help soften the light. It almost feels like paper, but it is a fabric which will not alter your color temperature because that thing is perfectly white. But if you want extra diffusion here, you can put either a gel or that tracing paper that I just mentioned right here, and the other one right here. So the distance also accounts how soft the light is going to be, because if you put the thing right here, it's going to be less diffusion. So with a little distance, the light can become more soft. Talking about gel holders, this is a big tip for any manufacturer, because I have a large LED panel from Genera that they have a built-in gel holder right at the barn door. This would have been a very cool thing to find here, so you don't need any of these little clips here, these little C47s. So the gel will just attach under here. I don't know, it's just a cool thing to have. Aren't these little C47s the cute little thing? People barely see it, doesn't scratch your barn doors, and this is all it takes to secure a gel here instead of the big ghetto type. With the light mount vertically, you can actually tilt the barn door all the way up or even backwards like that, but to tilt it down, you will need to place this light at 90 degrees. This is why it features a dual way to mount this receiver here, so you can actually place the light at 90 degrees and then you can actually tilt the barn door down as much as you want. The Yoke here features 2 large knobs, and it has a little something here for you to place your thumb here, and very minimal tightening is required. The light is not going anywhere once you do a little bit of tightening. The only thing I wasn't crazy about the Yoke here, because the actual metal is very thin, So to me it's a little fragile, but I don't see this breaking unless somebody is extremely rough with the equipment. But just so you know, the yoke I found a little bit fragile. It's kind of thin. It should be a little thicker. This knob here, when I opened the box, it was facing front, and then I thought it was a different way that they decided to do. But what happened was, maybe during shipping, this Allen screw here wasn't tightened all the way, so it kind of shifted a little bit. So if your light happens to come the same way, all you need to do is to tighten this little screw here with a metric Allen wrench, which is 5 millimeters in size, and then you can actually place it back to the way it's supposed to be, which is on the right side. So I guess since most yokes, they have this type of screw here, so you can actually modify every single LED, whatever brand that is, if you like that on the front, on the side, on the back, it's up to you. Just rotate this and put it anywhere you want. Don't you just love the versatility these LED panels have nowadays? The fact that you can just slap a battery in the back here and simply take this thing out in the field any day you want. But keep in mind it's not that simple, because make sure you are not running the DC adapter from the wall at the same time that you are sliding your V-mount battery here, simply because not only these things are expensive, the voltage that's flowing here, when this is connected here, it can severely damage your battery, because this has nothing to do with the voltage required to charge these batteries, and also the amperages as well. So as you can see, this is a on and off switch, which means the current is flowing here and also flowing here. I'm gonna show you right now, we're using my multimeter, that you have voltage here, so the negative is right here and the positive is right there. So you have about almost 17 volts of current flowing over here. So what you have to do is to turn this off, remove this thing here, and then you slide your V-mount battery. And then when you turn it on, you are safe, there's no current over here. If this power switch has a AC and then off and then DC, and then they will be isolated. When you are on AC, no current flows here, and DC, no current flows right here. So this type of power switch here, be very careful. Do not connect your V-mount battery or any battery here as long as this thing is connected to the AC wall, because you're gonna supply undesired current and damage your battery. There are some of the panels that they seem to kind of cut down the intensity or how much current you are allowed to have when using a battery. Just so you know, when you're using the V-mount battery on this particular panel here, is the same exact thing when you're using the AC outlet. When you are at 100% here, for example, is the same intensity as if you were plugging this from the outlet here. Now, usually when you have a power supply connected already to the outlet wall, and then you try to plug this in here, usually some spikes might occur, which is never good for the electronic component. So make sure before you plug this in here, the power adapter is disconnected from the outlet first. The power supply have plenty of cable length, but sometimes I like to mount it on a stand pole, so I think the AC cord part of the thing, the AC cable apparently measures 6 feet long or something, so all I gotta do is order a 15-foot long cable from eBay, and that takes care of the problem. But I wish the AC cable was at least 10-15 feet long. Now let's talk about these remote controls that most of you guys know how they operate, and the fact that you have a limitation when you use this remote control. So this light here, for example, it can range from 0% to 1% increments all the way to 100%. So as soon as you touch the remote control, it's going to change to 10% minimum. And this is a bicolor light, so I'm set to 3300 Kelvin right now. The remote is doing the same exact thing. This panel allows you to set the brightness from 0 to 1% increments all the way to 100 or anything in between here. As soon as you press it once, it's going to synchronize to the 10% here. But keep in mind that you cannot go lower than 10%, which is a common phenomenon found in most Godox lights, with the exception of the Godox FV150 that they use the RCA6 remote control. To my knowledge, that's the only remote control that lets you dim the light all the way down to 1%, even 0%. But most Godox lights, you're going to be with this 10% thing here. And then you can easily and manually set the thing back to 1% manually. So let's say that you are at 1% here and you touch the plus. So it's going to be 10 plus 1. It's going to equal 11, and then you can do your 1% increments here. But when you have the remote set to 10% and you press the minus button, it's going to go all the way down to 10. Now the cool thing about this little remote control is the fact that you can see everything here as far as brightness or color temperature. If you are way over there, you don't have to come back here to the back of the light to see what numbers you are. You just set the color temperature or light intensity. You can see the numbers changing here, so you know exactly where you are without the need to come back to the light here and read the numbers. This remote here allows you to work with this light at a distance up to 65 feet. So when you're controlling the light outdoors, for example, that you are really far away from the light, this will let you control this light from a greater distance. These remote controls here, they're easy to use, but they're small and easy to lose, and also I don't want anybody to step on this remote, so I put a little Velcro here. So I like my remote placed right here when it's not in use. Every time I'm looking for the remote, where's my remote? Right here. This is your on and off power switch. This is the plus and minus that adjusts the brightness of the light. The center button here lets you change the color temperature. Press it again, you are at the intensity back. To change the group or channel, press this button here. You start from A, B, C, D, E, and F, goes back to A. Press it once again, you are changing the channels from 1 all the way to 16. Now another thing to keep in mind, any color temperature, any different than 5600 degrees Kelvin or 3300, you will no longer will be able to go down to 10%. If you change this to, for example, 55, it jumps to 25%, and 25% it is. Anything in between is going to cause the light to jump to a minimum of 25%. So that's pretty much it for my review. If you like what you saw, please consider subscribing to this channel, because most things that I do here is reviewing lighting products. And if you care to give me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it, which tells me that I'm doing a good job and also helps the channel with the algorithms on YouTube. And thank you for watching the video, and see you next time.